Can people who don't even own this place just pack up and leave? You hardly make any money, and yet you have the audacity to stay in a luxury apartment. I agree, I'll start packing immediately, I replied with calm resolve, then turned toward the bedroom. As we passed each other, Laura gave me a smirk and said, even Eric, who makes $200,000 a year, had to give up his high-rise condo. And here's poor Lenora, who's really the poor one now. I muttered a response under my breath, but Laura's scoff cut me off. What? Stop whining and just get your stuff packed. With her words echoing in my ears, I silently gathered my belongings. I then placed a suitcase full of their things in front of Eric. I've packed everything. Both of you need to leave the apartment now. The story flashes back to my student days. My name is Lenora, and I grew up in a family of 4 with my younger sister Laura, our parents, and me. From a young age, Laura and I were polar opposites in both appearance and personality. I was tall and reserved, while Laura was petite and effortlessly charming. My parents showered Laura with adoration, and she grew up believing that being the center of attention was the norm. Despite my superior grades, Laura always found ways to outshine me in other areas. Whenever my academic achievements were acknowledged, Laura would immediately redirect the conversation to her own popularity. Who cares about grades? Listen to this. I've been cast as the lead in the school play for the cultural festival. Everyone recommended me. My parents' eyes lit up with interest. Wow, that's fantastic. Way to go, Laura. You've always been so loved by everyone. Good communication skills are more important than studying these days, don't you think? Lenora, do you even have friends? You're always buried in books, even in middle school. Even though my parents showered me with their love, Laura seemed to take it for granted. Lenora, what would you like for your upcoming birthday? My mom asked. I'd like a winter coat, I replied. All right, we'll go shopping for it soon. As soon as Laura heard this, she chimed in. I'd like a coat for my birthday next month too. Really? Well, let's go shopping together then, Mom agreed. When the shopping trip came around, it revolved entirely around Laura's preferences. I want to shop here, she declared, pointing to a store with designs that were far too cute for my taste. I was hoping for something a bit more subdued, I suggested, trying to redirect. Oh, come on, it's too much of a hassle to visit multiple stores. Just pick something from here, Laura said, pulling me toward a rack. Lenora, try this one on, she said, holding up a coat she had picked out. I think it'll look great on you. I'm not really into it, I protested. Just try it on. It'll look good, trust me. Reluctantly, I ended up buying the coat, despite not liking the design. On our way home, Laura leaned in and whispered, I'm glad you bought it, but that coat might not suit your plain looks. Even someone like me managed to get a boyfriend in high school. As we walked, someone approached and asked, Hey Lenora, is it true you're dating the baseball team's co-captain? Yeah, I guess, I replied, a bit taken aback. A few days later, Laura proudly declared, I'm dating the captain of the baseball team now. Oh really? So, your boyfriend is the captain, and mine is just the co-captain. I guess that means I win, Laura said with a smirk. Sure, you do, I replied, trying to sound indifferent. Laura always seemed to be in competition with me, but it didn't really bother me. Despite my nonchalance, Laura's underlying hostility never faded. After I graduated from college and started working at an IT firm, Laura landed a receptionist position at a prestigious company. 2 years later, she boasted, my company is far more renowned than yours, Lenora. Even the recruiters recognize it. I'll have my pick of highly educated, high-earning men. I'm planning to marry rich and quit working. Laura spoke with an air of triumph, as if her main goal was not just to work but to secure a wealthy husband. At her company, Laura dated various men both within and outside of work, eagerly updating me on each new relationship. Don't you have a boyfriend, Lenora? She would often ask, seemingly intrigued by my lack of romantic news. I find my job fascinating right now, so I'm not too worried about having a boyfriend, I replied. Laura laughed sarcastically. That's such a cliched excuse. Lenora, with your small company, you'll never meet a decent guy. But a year later, I met Eric, and our relationship progressed swiftly. We got engaged, and when I introduced Eric to my family, Laura was taken aback. Lenora, didn't you say you didn't need a boyfriend? She asked, surprised. At the time, I really felt that way, I explained. Eric quickly stepped in to deflect the attention. Laura, love is unpredictable, you know. I'm sure a charming girl like you gets what I mean. Laura blushed at Eric's charming smile. Yes, she stammered. Then she leaned in to whisper to me, Lenora, where did you find such a handsome guy? Is he from your company? No, we don't work at the same place, I replied. I figured. There's no way someone like him would come from your company. Is he from a big name firm? His charm makes me think he's connected to some global enterprise. Laura seemed to take my vague answer as confirmation that Eric was from a prestigious company. Thanks to Eric's natural social skills, discussions about our wedding with my parents went smoothly. We decided on a small ceremony with just close friends and family. Laura, however, continued to complain. I want to meet Eric's colleagues, she said persistently. Eric and I soon settled into our newlywed life. After moving in, we invited my parents and Laura over to our new home. Laura was visibly stunned. No way, this is your new place? This isn't just an upscale apartment in Boston. How much does he earn? Laura asked eagerly. Does he make around $500,000 a year? Come on, tell me. No, it's not that much. So, $400,000. Finally, you got it. It's $200,000. Ah, I see. Well, that makes sense, Laura said, trying to mask her surprise. After prying Eric's salary out of me, Laura muttered to herself, handsome, eloquent, and high-earning. Laura gets everything. Then she declared a competition of sorts. I'm going to find someone who's more handsome and earns more than Eric. Just wait and see. Determined, Laura threw herself into the search for a marriage partner, frequently attending matchmaking events. A few months later, she began visiting us often, sometimes even dropping by when I was at work. Hey Eric, did Laura stop by again today? How long was she here? I asked. I don't remember exactly, Eric replied. After a brief chat, Laura left soon after. Thanks for always being there for my family, I said. Eric smiled reassuringly. What are you talking about? Your family is my family, Lenora. His words comforted me, and I stopped worrying about Laura's frequent visits. But one day, when I came home from work, I found Eric and Laura sitting together in the living room, waiting for me. Laura, you're here again. What's going on with you two? Eric's expression was serious. Lenora, we need to talk. Please have a seat. Talk about what? I want to break up. What? What are you saying? I want to divorce you and marry Laura. Are you serious? I have a child with Laura, I said, stunned. What? Laura interjected with a smirk. Sorry, Lenora. I'm in love with Eric. We want to be a happy family with our child, so we need you to step aside. I was floored to discover that Laura had been cheating with Eric all along. As I struggled to process the betrayal, Laura continued, Since you introduced me to Eric, I've been searching for someone better. Finding someone as great as Eric who makes $200,000 a year was tough. Looking back, Laura's interest in Eric does make sense. Laura went on, One day, I ran into Eric while I was feeling down. He was so comforting, and that's when I realized I could just take him from you. That's incredibly selfish, I said, my anger rising. Laura didn't seem to notice, so I added, If you step aside, it'll show that I'm better than you. I was seething with anger. Laura's selfishness had always been a problem, but I had tolerated it because we were family. Not this time. I couldn't stand by and be treated this way. I wouldn't forgive either of them. Fine, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. Oh great, I knew you'd step aside so easily. After all, someone as plain as you doesn't deserve someone as great as Eric. So, you'll be moving out of this fancy apartment, right? It's too good for you anyway. At Laura's words, Eric interjected quickly, Hold on. Whether I own this apartment or not, we should sit down and talk this through. Laura dismissed him with a wave of her hand. Are you kidding? You don't even make that much money, and you want to stay in a luxury apartment. How shameless. I agree. I'll start packing now, I said quietly, heading toward the bedroom. As I passed by, Laura laughed and said, Poor Lenora, having to give up a $200,000 a year guy like Eric in a fancy high-rise apartment. Who's the real loser here? I muttered under my breath at her comment. Laura scoffed, Excuses, excuses. Just get your stuff packed. With Laura's voice fading into the background, I silently packed up my belongings. I placed all the packed items in front of Eric. Here, all of your stuff is packed. Now you both need to leave this apartment. Laura looked bewildered. What are you talking about? You're the one who's supposed to move out. No, it's you and Eric who need to leave. Both of you. What are you saying? Laura asked, confused. You were the one who said it's shameless to stay in a luxury apartment without making much money, I said. Laura, Eric, do you understand what I'm saying? Could you explain it to Laura here? Eric spoke so softly it was almost a whisper. This apartment isn't mine. What do you mean? I didn't buy this apartment. Lenora did, so it's in her name. Laura's face twisted in confusion. Why would you put it in Lenora's name? Eric should be the owner, since he makes more. Eric's voice grew even quieter. Actually, my income is less than Lenora's. What? But you make $200,000 a year. That $200,000 is Lenora's salary, not mine, Eric clarified. You're lying, Laura exclaimed. It seemed Laura was starting to grasp the situation. I continued, our household income is around $200,000, but most of that comes from me. After landing a job in IT and running a successful app business, my income grew significantly. That's when I met Eric. I started dating him because his cheerful personality was a welcome break from my hectic workdays. I expected that once we got married, he'd give up his part-time job. But as my income increased, Eric's work ethic diminished. By the time I finished explaining, Laura's face had drained of color. Wait, Eric has a job, right? He's not unemployed? He's essentially unemployed, I said. I stayed with him because he provided emotional support when I was busy, but he's just a man of empty promises who's been depleting our savings. You've done me a favor by taking him off my hands. But Eric always paid for upscale restaurants on our dates and even bought me designer clothes. That means he must have savings, right? I couldn't help but smirk at Laura's comment. That's just Eric for you, always putting on a show. He's been reckless with his credit card to impress people. I was the one left to clean up his financial mess. From now on, our accounts will be separate. You two will need to figure out how to handle the bills. Wait, so he's been spending wildly on credit cards without any savings? Who does that? I don't understand the mindset of someone foolish enough to cheat with his wife's sister. And honestly, the mindset of a woman who cheats with her sister's husband is beyond me as well. So you're saying my dreams of marrying a man who earns $200,000 and living a luxurious life in a high-rise condo are completely ruined? Without a shred of mercy, I kicked both the pathetic Eric and the crumbling Laura out of my apartment. I swiftly finalized my divorce with Eric and filed for alimony. Given their confession of infidelity, they had no grounds to contest the financial demands. Even after discovering that Eric was unemployed, Laura had no choice but to marry him because she was pregnant with his child. She hoped that fatherhood might make him more responsible. However, Eric's lazy habits remained unchanged. Initially, he had cheated with Laura, believing she was wealthier due to her position at a top-tier company. Yet he had no intention of contributing financially himself. He continued his part-time job, depleting Laura's modest savings to cover the divorce settlement and leaving no room to address credit card debt. As newlyweds, Laura and Eric fell into a cycle of debt. Unable to afford a new home, they moved into Laura's old apartment. Laura, who had quit her job in anticipation of Eric's income, now had to work part-time from dawn till dusk to manage their mounting debts and her growing pregnancy. Their constant fighting became a local spectacle, making them the talk of the neighborhood. On the flip side, my savings began to grow significantly. With Eric out of my life, I had ample funds for self-improvement, and men started taking a greater interest in me, some even earning more than I do. While Laura might have jumped at the chance to partner with someone based solely on their income, I've learned from my experience. I won't rush into another marriage like I did with Eric. I'm committed to finding someone who truly aligns with me rather than settling for financial reasons. For now, I'm focused on my work and dedicated to maintaining my independence.